And we're live on Book Chat Live. And
Hi.
first ever time being streamed on TikTok by Jen at the same time. So people got to see the pre-chat show bit.
The rushing around.
The muching, yeah. There's always a lot of stuff that goes on in these shows that nobody ever sees beforehand. Anyway, for anybody watching on Amazon who were like, who is this Jennifer Gilmour person? Can you briefly describe like who you are and why you got into books and why you got into writing books as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it to the point, hopefully, but my name's Jennifer Gilmour, and I'm an author and advocate for women in abusive relationships. So, several years ago now, it feels like a lifetime ago, I was in an abusive relationship, but it was a coercive, controlling relationship. And when I fled that relationship, there wasn't anything in place in the law system or even in the family court system that would support me and my position. So I actually learned about coercive control and emotional abuse and actually the impact it had on me. And I felt that for some reason it would be important to actually let everybody else know about it because it was almost too late for me. So I wrote my first book as a preventative. But the long story short, I was in an abusive relationship and felt the need to try and send a message out to people without putting it in a pamphlet or a leaflet.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about your first book, which is totally unrelated to domestic abuse. Well, at least I don't think it's got anything to do with domestic abuse. So are you ready to talk about the first book? All right, here we go. Which is the Harry Potter box set by J.K. Rowling. Well, you actually said Harry Potter, so
Yes, the Harry Potter book set. Now I've got my favourite one in hand, which is The Prisoner of Azkaban. But the whole set, and the reason why I wanted to highlight this in your book chat live is because I actually went through a lot of childhood abuse as well, and that's something I'm working through at the moment. But Harry Potter was my true escapism from my reality. And I actually did feel like I grew up with those characters because I was at the right age for when each book was coming out. I was there at the book launches, you know, the premieres of even the films and everything, and I really felt connected to the series. I even got into the whole Pottermore. I was one of the beta people for that because I was that obsessed with Harry Potter. Not that I aren't now. It's just different when you grow up, right? But I felt like we had to talk a bit Harry Potter. I cannot not mention it because it is a part of, you know, my childhood and my writing as well. Tim, I don't know if you know this, but J.K. Rowling, in her, in the documentaries and everything that's said, she was in an abusive relationship as well. So there is a mild connection, I guess, to obviously the work that I do, but not in any way was it related to domestic abuse. It was just purely because it takes me to another place. And a quote that's in one of the, I think it's maybe in the last book, is Hogwarts will always be your home. And genuinely, I do feel like that. I sound like a right Harry Potter nutcase right now. But when I went to the studios in Watford, I literally cried because I actually did feel like a part of me was home. So there we go. That's something I've never spoken about properly before. So hopefully, you won't judge me by Harry Potter.
I mean, I've watched the films. I've never read the books. A little bit on the old side to have read the books at the time, but why the Prisoner of Azkaban? Because I've seen that. Would you say the film? Because in my mind, the film didn't seem that good, and I don't know if it's just the adaptation was not good are The Prisoner of Azkaban relative to the other film. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it's one Half-Blood Prince. I think it's a bit weak, but most of the films are pretty good. And the first Deathly Hallows one as well, I thought was a little bit boring. But why do you like that book the most out of the series?
Well, the first thing I have to say, the films don't do the books justice.
Yeah.
They can't ever if you read them that way around. If you watch the films and then read them, then I guess it brings the world more to life in a way. But The Prisoner of Azkaban is because they've already got the friendship circles sort of, you know the characters well, you kind of know the backgrounds of everyone, you know the school setting, and you see the characters get a bit of freedom. And we think that Harry is this, lonely character that he's got no family that he's related to, but he's actually introduced to somebody in his family line.
Yeah.
And just the whole sequence, obviously I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
But you do get the sense that actually you know enough about the characters for it to sort of take that next step. So yeah, it is one of my the most endearing books, I think, for me.
Yeah. And was it the accessibility? Because I mean, I've say I've not read the books, but they do seem very readable, so to speak. They're not like difficult books to read, from what I've heard. Is that what helped you get into it, or was it that you kind of related to Harry as a character, so to speak? As in, I mean, in some ways you could say, because he was somebody who was supposed to live under the stairs. So, I mean, okay, well, whether that's, I suppose it is abuse of a kind, but was that something that appealed to you about it, or was it some one of the other characters, or just the general escapism you liked?
It was the escapism for me, but I guess, it sounds really a bit dreadful to say, but Harry Potter was kind of locked in, his cupboard, and I was kind of always told to go to my bedroom, and I was stuck in my bed all the time. So it was that escapism. And yeah, I would say they are easy to read, but when I was first introduced to the first book, it was in summer school just before I was going to start year 7. So it was almost like a buffer to sort of get you used to what to expect in high school. And I remember missing a couple of days of that summer school, and so I was behind anyway. So I came at it when Quidditch was involved, and they were talking about all the rules and regulations and of this game. And because I didn't have a visual representation, and I am quite a visual person, it was really hard for me to imagine what Quidditch was about. So after summer school, I actually left Harry Potter behind. I didn't touch it for another few years when I picked it up again. So I would say, I guess it depends on who's reading it. As adults, yes, you can just get through, read through them really quickly. So if you want an easy read, but an enjoyable escapism, fantasy, and still there's adoring characters you can get on with, it's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Quidditch makes no sense as a game, really, does it? At the end of the day, if you think about Quidditch, it makes no sense. It's like, well, you can keep playing, and then if you just get this thing at the end, you win anyway. It's like, okay. So
yeah. I see what you mean.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we go on to the next book? Yeah. Which is The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. Is that Niffenegger?
So I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it, but well done for trying.
Yeah, I probably offended her and her family when they see the replay. But, so
The Time Traveler's Wife.
So why did you pick this one?
This one was when I was around 18, 19. I read this, obviously coming into the sort of late teens there. Yeah. But for me, it was that escapism as again, because obviously there is some time travel, but there's a romantic story along the lines. And for me, I was impressed by the writing. And how she managed to keep up with where the characters were during this book. So I haven't read it for quite a while. It's probably one I want to revisit, but I would recommend reading it if you were looking at writing yourself or you're interested in time travel. And don't watch the film because that would take away from how she's sort of pieced it together. I mean, the film does help it because it can be a confusing read if you decide to read half of it, put it down, and don't pick it up for a while. So I would recommend, if you're going to read it, to sort of sit at it and go through it as much as you can.
Yeah, I think I've seen the film and not read the book, but
Oh, you
I
should
like the
definitely.
film. It was a long time ago, so I might be able to go back and read the book and not remember what the though it kind of gives it away that it's an element of time travel in the title, really, doesn't it?
I think that it's very emotive as well
Yeah.
in the writing, and it did stir up a lot of emotions in me when I was reading it. And for somebody to actually create a human, emotion from just a piece
Yeah.
of text, to me, is really powerful. So I felt that it was an important one to sort of highlight, because it is hard to take a reader on that journey and make it so emotive as well.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Cheers, The Recovery Toolkit by Sue Penner.
Yes, the recovery toolkit. This one is a personal one to me. I don't know if you've heard me talking about this one before, Tim.
I think you have mentioned it because I've interviewed you a couple of times on our other show, the Oh No, on our live show, and I think my co-host there was interviewed you about twice as well, and you have mentioned that book.
Yeah,
But
I'll go.
but if as if it's like somebody new to that book, why does that? I think that book has made probably the biggest significant change to your life.
Yes,
Any book,
yes,
would you
that
say
is
that?
correct. For me, the recovery toolkit, I actually didn't access this as a book. I fell upon it through a community support group, Hull Domestic Abuse Partnership. They are linked with the local authority here in Hull, and I opted in for some support for when I came out of that abusive relationship. And one of the things that was offered to me was the recovery toolkit. I mean, I didn't even think anything would exist for someone coming out of a relationship like I did. And then this was sort of brought to me, and I thought, do you know what? I need to do something to change the habits that had sort of formed through that relationship. And I still work through them with the same model today, essentially. But basically, it's a 12-week program, and it helps you to think about the future. You don't think about, you don't talk about what's happened in your past or anything. You think about how has an abusive relationship changed you as a person, so that you can decide whether you want to change that again for your future. So one of the things for me was, in the first week, the homework was to simply do something for yourself. So
Yeah.
my commitment was to have a bath, which seems like a really simple task. But when I run the bath and I went to go into that bath, I felt this instant guilt that I wasn't doing something for the kids, that I needed to not be doing this, that I can just have a shower, it will be quicker. And suddenly this bath ended up being the quickest dip you can probably imagine.
Yeah.
So that was what got me thinking about actually how it's affected me, and how now I can have a 2-hour bath, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So it's improving on those things that altered me. But lockdown happened, and that meant thousands of people couldn't access the program, which is a shame because it does hold you back. And so they created this self-help book version
Oh,
of
okay.
the program,
Yeah.
which came for just a small price, but could potentially change your path going forward. It's a no-brainer. So a lot of organisations bought the copies of this book and started sending them out. Now, one thing I'm very proud of is that the person that has done the case studies in this book is me. So it was a very proud moment because it changed my life. It also brought light to me more in the domestic abuse sector.
Yeah.
And I can say that I've worked with Sue Penner, who has formed this program, and many other programs that have helped people in different situations. So yes, I would recommend the recovery toolkit to anybody that has been through an unhealthy relationship.
Okay. Right. Slide that. Just doing, as I've accidentally omitted one of your books from the list of things, so I was quickly fiddling that in the background. Anyway, here we can go.
Don't worry about it. I'm just adjusting my pins and needles.
The next book is Isolation Junction by Jennifer Gilmour, and if anybody didn't know, that's you. So, why this is this was the first book you wrote, wasn't it? So,
yes, it is.
Talk a bit about how you first worked out you're going to write a book, and then how you got through that.
Yes, so obviously I just spoke about the recovery toolkit, and at the end of that course, we got asked, what are we going to do now with our lives? And I had this glazed over look thinking, I've got to think about that now. And that was when I had the moment of thinking about, why have I done this course at all?
Yeah.
Why isn't this information being shared with college students, with people in high school, with university, with even primary school, because relationships start there. And so I felt that finally I had a reason to write, and I have had a love for writing since I was a very young girl. I used to write a lot of fairy stories. I've still got some of the stories that I've written in the past. Obviously, as I went into being a teen, a lot of romantic stories.
Yeah.
And I suppose that really gave me a different kind of escapism, but I never had a reason to finish those stories or finish a first book. And I realised that my story was going to be the story that's going to make the difference. And it was simply because, I say simply, it's not really simple, but I had very, very, very minimal violence in my relationship. It was all emotional, and I felt very alien at the time because none of that was spoken about. When you thought of domestic abuse, you thought of Little Mer from EastEnders.
Yeah.
So I had the challenge of, well, if I heard the word domestic abuse and I didn't associate with those words, how am I going to send a message out to people about emotional abuse, coercive control, and get them to see that they might be in that relationship or they might have a friend in that relationship? And that is where Isolation Junction was born. So it is based on true stories of my own and other women, but it's all a work of fiction around that. And it is, it is an emotional read. You can't get away from having that emotion, but what I would say is don't be put off it because it does contain abuse, because it's also inspiring and motivating, and a lot of people have come to me to say how, you know, it was just refreshing to read. It's not a depressive read, is probably what I would say. So, but this is raw, and I haven't gone back to read it back, because when you write your first book, you don't really want to go back and read that text anyway. But also, I can feel how I've written that as well. So I've kind of left Isolation Junction there and let other people enjoy it.
Yeah. So, who would you say that book will be most helpful for? Is it somebody who's just interested in, or they're? I mean, it's not like a recovery toolkit book. It's more an educational tool in fiction. Would you say something like that?
Yes, I would say that it's a form of entertainment, but it is educational because
Yeah.
by the end of it, you have been educated on the signs of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
I would say any young woman, but to be honest, I've had young men reading it as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's educational to anybody who wants to read it. I mean, I wrote it so that any book lover could read it so
Yeah.
that they can get educated. But yeah, anybody who does enjoy fiction would hopefully enjoy it. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to say it from my point of view, but um, I think people have read it in less than an hour because they've wanted just to know what happens, which
Yeah.
is quite nice to
It's
hear.
always a good sign in a book, isn't it? If you read it.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get on to. Let's go on to the next book. Clarity and Connection by Young Pueblo.
Oh, now I do have this one, but I think it's downstairs. I
Uh,
think because I actually read a section of it every day.
okay.
And I want to get his next one. But basically, this book has little scripts every day that gets your head, thinking about things. And for me, it's almost like affirmations, messages, and obviously you can see it's all about clarity and connection. For
Yeah.
me, I've needed to get clarity in my life, but it's also about connecting you with the world, you as a person, and actually just accepting yourself for you. But it really has these statements that you work your way through, and you just think, oh my goodness, I've never thought about it like that before. Or I want to, it's set out like a poetry book, but it's not poetry.
Yeah. So is it just sort of like a page or two at a time of different
Yeah,
kind of
so
things?
yeah, you literally just go through it. There's one half of it clarity, the other half connection. You just take yourself page by page. I think at most there's 4 paragraphs to one section, so you can literally just read. Sometimes it's just one sentence, so you don't
Mm,
know what you're going to get on the page, which for me I do kind of like because it gives that feeling of not knowing what's going to be
yeah.
next day. You don't have to read it day by day, but I think if you're trying to use it the way other people might use it, it's sort of, you can adopt it into your life. Then I suppose if you whiz through, you're not going to remember the words of wisdom that he's putting into it.
Yeah. I like that kind of book. Ironically, I remember one by Tony Robbins that was very similar. I can't remember
Oh,
exactly.
really?
I think they work out that like if you can have 360 rules for life or something, and you just do two words a page, you can actually make quite a long book out of it. But I like that sort of thing, and I think it's good. So much depends on the quality of like what they write in this kind of book.
Yeah.
So, that you can't just write "Don't run with scissors" like on page and then put the next.
Well, I know you follow me on Instagram because you reply obviously to the fireworks in Scarborough the other day.
Yeah.
um, which did make me giggle. But I often share his snippets on
Oh
Instagram,
yeah.
so you'll have seen some of his work already without knowing.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I thought he looked familiar, the name Young Pueblo. I've seen that. And again, that's good. It's real quotable stuff. So
Mm.
anyway, let's get on to another quotable author. Clip Wings by Jennifer Gilmour.
Who'd have thought it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is one of the books I didn't know you'd written, so
well, it all knits together. So
yeah,
the way I've sort of given my books over to you is sort of taking you on my own journey
yeah,
into some kind of way. So obviously, the last book was also almost about me and healing, and working on that side. Now, a part of my healing journey was connecting with others that have been through abusive relationships, because when I came out of it, I just thought it was me.
yeah,
Like, I suppose the way the police had dealt with things and the justice system had dealt with things, it makes you feel like you're the only one that's going through it, but it's not the case. One in 4 women and 1 in 6 men experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. And as a result of me publishing one book, I had hundreds of people messaging me, emailing me about their experiences or their friend. And I didn't realize it, but I became like a secret signposter in the middle of the public and
yeah,
the domestic abuse charity services. So it was quite a tricky situation, but a few of those people that came forward actually said they wanted to get their story out to help other people. So that's where Clipped Wings came into place. And I think for me, the important message from this book is, when it ran as a project, 125 people signed up to do it, and only 24 completed it. The
mm,
rest were real. That was just, think of the fear you have in
yeah,
publishing your story. Even anonymously, a lot of people were just so afraid that they might just pick it up, might read it, and know it's about them.
yeah,
So obviously it's such a big ask of people really to do that. So it was purely volunteer led, and there's 23 women and 1 gentleman in here talking about their experiences, whether that's physical violence, emotional, medical, elderly. It's all kinds of domestic abuse. And even though my name is on there, I, it's the survivors that have written it,
yeah.
so I'm arguing it.
So you're like the editor of the book, really, in a way. You pulled the
I've
strings.
hosted it, I've brought
Yeah,
it to light. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so and Hot Stopper by Alice Ousman. And I put volume 1 down here on the link for anybody, but there's loads of these Hot Stopper books, and they're all called like Hot Stopper book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and there isn't a box set. So,
Yep.
why this series and why this book?
Okay, so this series is because they are literally on my daughter's shelves in
Yeah,
her bedroom, and my other daughter's asleep, so I can't run and get them for you. But my eldest daughter, she's 13, she fell in love with these books. I think it was because of the Netflix series on it, but she got the books, and they're almost like a comic book style, so they're very easy to read. And she took to them so well, and she just wanted me to read them. So
yeah,
I went ahead and I read them, and I totally understand why she asked me to read them, because it's all about 2 boys in their coming out journey in high school. And obviously, with me coming out recently, she felt like I might connect to it. But I felt that it was so important to showcase it because of it being a comic book as well, almost, because you don't see that a coming out story in a comic book form. So I
yeah,
thought that was really unusual, and then it has actually just been taken through this Netflix series, and there's a fan base for it and everything. and it's talked about openly in schools, and I think it really has been part of a game change in the young children, to be able to talk about things.
Yeah, I'm always like in awe of graphic novels and comics and things, because they're very trivialized by people, but they're way, way harder to create than most other books. Like illustrations and everything. So when you find a really good graphic novel or comic or something that's close to, but I think there's probably more graphic novel, but yeah, when you find a good one, it's really because they communicate the story so much more clearly than text. Well, not clearly, but I mean, because obviously there's less to the imagination, so they communicate more, I suppose. I'm trying to advocate for comics here, but I'm not doing a good job.
No, I think if there was some of that involved in Harry Potter, just snippets of that, of some images, or the fact how she's adapted interaction within it as well, it helps me
Yeah,
as a person, because I'm quite a visual person anyway. So I do like reading, but I have to put it down and then pause and then come back to it now, because it can be quite overwhelming. But I would say that's more my ADHD than anything.
yeah. Okay, let's get on to the next one, which is also quite visual. All Aboard by All Aboard. I think they're actually not called All Aboard, but this is what it says on Amazon. So it's All Aboard by All Aboard.
Yeah, well, the whole excitement with this book is that they were actually coming out anonymously. It all started on Instagram, where they would share. Well, actually, it started off on the boards in the London Underground, and they would just share something positive each day because of the suicides that happen along the train lines and how it's impacted the staff there. So 2 friends came together anonymously to write on these boards, and then suddenly they started sharing them on Instagram completely anonymously as All on Board. And once everything, years go by, lots of people watching. I've passed the board. I don't know if you've passed it, Tim, in London. I've passed it a few times, and I stop and I have read it. And so they've collated them all. I don't want to say the best ones, but some key ones together into a book. And I was one of the first to buy it, because I just thought, what a way to instill positivity, also educate people as well. It's not just about positivity anymore and mental health. It's about educating people on all different kinds of things. So I thought it was just great. And I don't want to sound really bad, but it's my toilet book.
Yeah.
It's perfect for guests. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like the Young Pueblo one, isn't it? It's like you can read just one bit and one page.
Yeah, perfect.
No, I mean I've seen them on Instagram. I don't know where it is, which tube stations it in, but it's not the one. So generally the tube stations that I go past. I think I'd have to Google it where they actually did it. But
I think they move around now, but originally I think it was King's Cross, but in the underground section. So, but you also have to think of where they've put the board as well. So
I think I have walked past the board once, but
maybe you just didn't see it because it was just a board.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I've seen them on Instagram though a lot. It's really good. I think they're called All on Board on Instagram. So if anybody wants a brief look before they go and buy the book, they can just look at the Instagram account. Anyway, let's get and this is another book that I didn't realise somebody had written. So, book review logbook by Jennifer Gilmour.
I thought I would just try and get as many as I can in. Although I haven't got this one to hand. But it is, if you love books, this is where you're going to record all of the ones that you're reading. And I did this as I know my work is in domestic abuse, and I thought, how can I actually get my message out to bloggers or avid readers, and where could a new starting point be? So a new starting point is working through a logbook and looking at who's created it at the back, and it talks about, you know, my journey into going into writing Isolation Junction. So really it was almost a different marketing technique for me, but also in the mind of how many more people can I get the book Isolation Junction, you know, into the hands of. So I found that even for me, I'm a book lover, so I was kind of thinking, what can I do that I enjoy, what my daughter can enjoy, what my book blogger friends can enjoy as well. So all you do is record your reads along the way. So if anybody's, you know, writing down the books from this book chat live and are going to purchase them from this channel, then you can write them all down in the book review logbook.
So is it like if I go and buy this on Amazon or from good retailer, well, I say Amazon, we're on Amazon Live, so I better say Amazon. What do they get a blank book that they fill in then? Is that what it works, or is there a bit of text and then they fill in the
there's pages you fill in, but there is text pages, and there's like different activities on some of the pages as well.
Yeah.
It's even got like a milestone section, so like if you get to 50 and it stops at 100, so you can it stores 100 books, but it gives you the ability to review them and add quotes, because I found that when I'm reading and it's, you know, I just want to remember what page X, Y, and Z was on, or where this was, where that was, or perhaps I want to star it 1 out of 5 stars, hopefully not, but then I've got a place to put that and also remember it, because once you get to, I don't want to say my age as if it's old, I'm 35, but I've read so many books now that I almost forget parts of books that I've read, and it almost gives me a highlight into that book for me to remember it.
Yeah, I suffer from that. I've read so many self-help books over the years. Sometimes I get confused between which ones are which.
Which one told me which thing?
Well, a lot of them are quite derivative of each other, so that's always also the issue. Is that your logbook, or are you just reaching?
I'm thinking, I thought of a really good way to do this, Tim. Oops, don't even know what was on. I could have just done this from the beginning. I mean, I technically don't have the book in my hand, but
what your Kindle? See your Kindle.
does that count? I was just thinking.
I mean, it's something to illustrate that you actually have got the book. So. But I'm guessing the book review logbook is probably not the greatest book to get in Kindle. Really,
no, not on Kindle, but I'm thinking of the next one.
Okay, shall we get on to the next one then, so that you can. Dirty Laundry by Richard Pink and Roxanne Emery.
Yes, so for those on TikTok, they might have heard of it. There is Dirty Laundry. It's the best way. I can't zoom into the picture though, which is a shame. But if you have seen them on TikTok, they've created an amazing following, educating people on what it's really like to have ADHD. And obviously, I've been following them for a while. They're one of the reasons that I actually went and got tested, because I was like, this is me. In fact, my daughter came across their channel and said, this just sounds like you, Mum. So I got tested, obviously found out I do have ADHD. And so I purchased their book, which only came out, I think, a couple of months ago. And they've self-published, and they've been a Sunday Times bestseller, which I'm just in awe of. And a lot of people have said just how real this book is compared to reading about ADHD in textbooks, because it's obviously that real life case study example. And it's also how you can help somebody that has got ADHD. It sort of gives you the scenario and then how you can work through it. So yeah, I am halfway through this book. So I'm sort of taking each one and learning from it myself.
Yeah, because I mean, there's an awful lot of people who've been like, especially women who've been like diagnosed with ADHD. Probably because there were, for a long time, it was just almost caricatured as children who run around too much was ADHD in the 70s and 80s, I think. Possibly even
Yeah. And I think you can think of the early childhood like ability to mask it, you
yeah.
know, sort of, you know, girls don't do that, you know, cross
Mm,
your legs, you know, you shouldn't sit like that. Even things, you know, simple as that, it starts controlling how you are showing yourself. So often containing it, and then when behind closed doors, in your bedroom, you sort of can be yourself. And it's not just about that, though. It's not just there is the opposite end of the scale where it isn't hyperactivity, it's hyperactivity in the mind, not physically.
yeah.
So it's been really quite interesting. Obviously, I've only been diagnosed in January, so I'm really early into this journey, so I can't talk about it as an expert. I can only talk about it as what I know. So, but that book I would recommend for anybody who's either got ADHD or they've got a partner or a family member with ADHD, because it's an honest sort of look into the difficulties in the day-to-day life.
Okay. All right. On to another author who may be familiar. The
Oh,
Funky Tracks by Jennifer Gilmour. This is the last book. We'll all
I'm
be.
like wondering what's coming next, because I like we've gone through a lot.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do the order exactly the way you gave me. Partly for some reason I misclicked Wings Out, so I put that one book
I
forward.
wondered why it was there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It worked out quite well. No, well, you
Yeah.
did say half, didn't you? So I thought I would. It's not
Yeah.
often I market myself anyway. I don't know if you've seen that online. I do share my experiences quite a lot, and I probably do 99% talking about things and 1% selling. So I
Yeah.
thought, well, he said, I took what you said literally, and I thought, I'm going to actually put every single one in for a change. So the
Well, no, I mean you've not gone up to half. I mean you've got 11 books, and I think there's 4 of yours. It's 4 or 5. 1, 2. This is where I can't count. Well, if you count, no, it's 4 books. So yeah, it's not bad. It's nowhere near half. So you're not even used up half. You need to write another 2 books so you can get over half.
so yeah, the Funky Frex is
Yeah,
my last one. And I suppose if we're going along the journey of everything, obviously I mentioned that domestic abuse obviously is important, but how do we talk to people about it? And I thought about relationships. Where do they start? Where do you get your first boyfriend even? And then
yeah,
I thought it's not even about that. It's about your first friend. You know, what if, you know, I bet we can all think of that friend who was definitely not good for us in high school, who was a bad influence, who put pressure on us, or we couldn't say no to, or perhaps, you know, the bully at school that we still felt obliged to address or anything like that. So I thought about it and I thought, out of our family, our first relationships with outside of our family are most likely going to be in primary school. That's when we're going to make those first interactions. And I thought about, right, how important is it to educate children on how they choose their friends at that age, in the thought of preventing them down the line to having unhealthy relationships with other people. So we're thinking about what a good friend is in our life in primary school, for them to be equipped really for the rest of their lives. I mean, I know it's a big ask and I know it's a big statement, but if we do get this right in their childhood, perhaps then they have got the right support circle and they've got the ability to choose who their, boyfriend or girlfriend is in the future. And hopefully then we've prevented that awful experience. So it actually is just a book that you read. A child can read it on their own, can read it in the class or in any setting. But what brings it to life is really the free resources that you can download with it. And it's actually like you could do 2 lessons out of it, if you were doing PSHE, or if you were even taking something for an assembly, or even if you're a parent with your child, there's printables there. So I've used my degree in youth work to actually for something useful, because I've never used it before.
Yeah.
So I've tried to sort of think about how we can get children to talk about their friendships and to equip them with choosing. So we're not maybe listening to the old-fashioned let's get along with everybody. It's let's choose who we want to get on with and respect everybody else.
Yeah.
So
I think that's an important lesson for kids, because you can't get on with everybody. I mean,
no.
but also you shouldn't be like push Jimmy into the corner because you don't like him, sort of thing. It's like, just leave Jimmy alone. Like, that's
you don't
the way.
do that in adult life, do you?
No, well, no, some people do, but yeah, you shouldn't. So anyway, I normally ask people a couple more questions and things, and go straight onto YouTube with the end bit of the show. But I won't do that because I'm sweating like anything because it's still hot here down in London. And so I'll ask you the 2 usual questions I ask people. If you had to pick one of these books to give somebody, well, if you can answer it in terms of like this one book, then that's fine, that's good. But if you can't, what logic would you use to work out which book? What questions would you ask the person to find out which book you should give them? If that makes sense. So,
Well, for me, I would probably have to say the Recovery Toolkit.
yeah.
I have to say that because it changed my life, because I wouldn't be here where I am today without that program. So for me, I think because it's changed my life and I know the statistics behind domestic abuse, if everybody read it, then at least, a massive amount of people would be helped by it. So yeah, I would say the Recovery Toolkit. It almost was a no-brainer for that one, to be honest.
Yeah. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I couldn't say one book, so that's why I add on this kind of draw me a flowchart of how you would pick which book to pick. The other question I usually ask authors is, what's next? What's the next book are you going to write another book soon? Have you got an idea for a book? Are you giving up writing books and you're going to join a nunnery or something? Like, what's next in terms of your writing career, Jen?
Well, for me, my job at the moment is to really get the Funky Frex out there.
Yeah.
I want to see it in primary schools. So my job is to create a lot of template emails for people to pass along to their local MPs or their local authorities and head teachers and anybody else of importance, just to show that it is now a part of the curriculum to, relationships as in healthy relationships, but it's actually how that fits into the curriculum and what they actually are using as content, because there isn't anything out there. So for me, it's that. But on a side note, I am working on 2 books and one like a low content book, but it's like a colouring book for domestic abuse survivors. So I'm really using all of my creative energy thing, because I don't know if you know this, but I actually illustrated the children's book. Not the front cover, but the rest of it is actually illustrated by me. So, I mean, you can't really see on the screen.
Yeah, I see
but for me, I thought I did art when I was younger. I just wasn't very confident with it. So I thought I was put into a situation where I needed to. And now I found the love for that again as well. So I'm going to try every creative mission possible to raise awareness of domestic abuse, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, you said the colouring book. What was the second thing that you?
I don't think I can talk about the 2 other books, but maybe I can I or not? The one of the books is actually, it's all out there in pieces. It's all the really important blog posts with the statistics, the learning, the case studies, the experiences that has won, awards with my blog. So I'm trying to collate them all together to make it into a book, because really what you've got is an educational book with case studies alongside it. So I am thinking that's partly done. And the other one is definitely top secret right now.
Okay. So we won't talk about your MI5 book or whatever. Okay, well, it's been great to have you on the show, and I will try and work out what buttons I have to press to end the show now. It's weird. It's weird doing Amazon Live, because I go live on my phone, but I've got money on my computer, and this is like a camera to the computer. So I think I pressed this button here. So thanks for everybody watching.